Everybody, Andy here again. Morning. Yes, trying to find different locations, slightly different angles. And as you can probably see, I've had a haircut. And there's lots of people talking about haircuts on here, obviously, because so many people are isolated in lockdown and all that. Hairdressers, barbers, whatever you want to call them, salons aren't open. So what do? I'm lucky. I've got some clippers, and I know it's not necessarily the way to go for everybody, especially some of you ladies. Maybe get the clippers out and a completely new hairstyle. So I've been sort of cutting my own hair like that for about 20 odd years now. Saved me an absolute fortune. Anyway, I shall put the numbers down yesterday, and I've got them written down if I can find them. A big total yesterday, unfortunately, the daily total 938 deaths in hospital. Make sure you get that point, because I saw some reported from a care home which wouldn't have been in that particular number either. So we're now approaching those high figures that places like Spain and Italy had, which is quite worrying. And I suspect, we're getting to that point. We're behind them. As I said, the total number of deaths now 7,097. And funny enough, I was looking at my little notes that I've made here. You realise only a couple of weeks ago it was like 2,000. It's gone up quite a lot. The daily album yesterday was this one. Actually, there's the cover. Breakfast in America. What a great cover! Because if you don't know, it looks like obviously Manhattan back in the day of the Twin Towers, but these are actually all like salt and pepper pots or things like that, things from a restaurant. Very clever, and you just don't get that sort of thing anymore, do you? And that's the point. And that came out in 1979, and it's great to get back into that vinyl, as I said. Boris Johnson is still in hospital, still in intensive care, but apparently he is getting better. But we are expecting now, because our lockdown or semi-lockdown, it's called a lockdown, here in the UK is meant to end next week, and we're expecting that to be extended. There's no way it's not going to be extended, but I mean, I know some people, even some police forces and people like that, are actually calling for the lockdown to be made more harsh, tougher, which wouldn't be a bad thing. Nobody wants that, because it doesn't help any of us in the long run, if it helps people dying, we don't have as many people dying, and it stops, it sort of lessens the time that it takes to get out the other end of this, then that can only be a good thing. Although obviously, short-term pain, long-term gain, and all that type of thing. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, because so many of us, and I shall reiterate, not all of us, have got a lot more time on our hands. And I've seen a couple of other people doing videos about this. Chris over there in Canada, Mick in Florida, and Trish in Liverpool, talking about this whole idea of having the time now. We have the time, and you see so many inspiring articles, whether it be in newspapers, in the media generally, on YouTube. People, right, now's the great time to get out there. Let's learn a language. Let's do yoga. Let's start baking bread and sewing and knitting and learning, about ancient history and doing all those online courses you've always wanted to do. Read all those books and listen to all those CDs. As I said, yes, I have been, but that's something that I do all the time. I've always been a big reader. I've always been a big music fan. And this has just given me a little more time. I'm not reading really any differently to what I've always done. Listening to the music a little bit more, because I have a bit more time, so I can immerse myself in it. As I've said, listening to whole albums, hence the daily album down below for anyone who's just joined. But you watch some of those people who are doing all these things, and it's not just at the moment. I've seen this before. People are real busy bees for whatever reason, and they're exhausting. And you watch some of these people and you think, wow, I don't know. So we have this great opportunity, but sometimes it's not just an opportunity to get out there and do all that stuff, which is great. It expands your mind, it expands your horizons and all that type of thing as well. Takes you to a different place, as I said, with the books and the music before. But it's also a chance to sit down and relax. There is nothing wrong, there's the door, there is nothing wrong with actually doing nothing. Because I've just basically retired from work. I wasn't doing a great deal of work anyway, but I retired. And I remember the guy I was working with said to me, "What are you going to do, Andy?" And I said, "Well, nothing, possibly, for quite a while. I mean, it's not a good idea to sit around and do nothing forever, but there is a chance just to sit there. There's nothing, it's great to just sit and while away the time." There's a song by Counting Crows that says, "If you've never stared off into the distance, you've never lived your life," or words to that effect, to paraphrase it. And that's true. We do need to do that. We went down for a little bit of walk yesterday, sat on the beach, looked out to sea, and just chilled. Not everybody has that, but we can all do it in our own type of way. Watching the TV, that type of thing, it's mind-numbing stuff, but it takes you away. It takes away all the pressures and the pains and type of that. We don't actually have a TV. Yes, okay, that's really weird. I remember when I told my daughter I'd moved into this place and not bought a TV, and she told my ex-wife, she said, Dad hasn't got a TV. He hasn't got a TV. What's going on? But we don't need one. We just get on and do. I think nowadays, obviously, you can watch things on this laptop. There's always the opportunity. So don't feel guilty if you're not feeling the motivation, because sometimes, as I've said to other people, it's not the time. It wasn't the time that was stopping you doing all these things, learning the languages, doing yoga, sort of baking bread and all that type of thing. Sometimes it's just the motivation. Sometimes it's just not you. And everybody is different. Don't feel guilty about doing nothing. Don't feel guilty about just sitting back and relaxing, because we all need to clear our heads sometimes. And this is possibly a great time to do that, especially as we don't know what's along the corner. Everybody's reacting to this in a slightly different way. We've all got our own little trials and tribulations going. So don't judge anybody if they're not doing what you're doing. If you're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, jogging in your lounge because someone's doing a YouTube tutorial or something, or you haven't got your headphones on because you're learning Spanish or Swahili or something like that, don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong with it. You can just sit back and relax and do nothing. You have my permission. So have a think about that. So by all means, if you want to do something, I've got intention. I keep meaning to try and bake some bread. You just can't get used for love nor money over here, because I've quite enjoyed doing that, and it is quite therapeutic. By all means, give something a go, but don't ever feel guilty about not doing it, or even trying it and not liking it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to carry on with something just because someone else says you should do. Be your own person ultimately, because you're the only person who knows what you want, and it's you ultimately that matters. Sometimes you do have to be a little bit selfish about these things. So there you go. So maybe just do nothing, just chill out. It's the Easter weekend after all. Maybe that's the time to sit back, watch the TV, read a book if you fancy doing that, and eat a chocolate. Eat some chocolate. Yeah, that's a great comfort for so many people. Anyway, as usual, stay strong, stay safe, and hopefully I shall speak to you tomorrow. Goodbye.